Hi, everybody. I'm Melinda Emerson, the Small Biz Lady, America's #1 small business expert. And I'm so excited to welcome you to another episode of the SmallBizChat podcast. We have an amazing show in store for you today. I have 3 amazing experts. They're all going to talk about different aspects of business. We're going to talk about how to get started with a business on Amazon. We're also going to talk about should you or should you not franchise your business concept. And if you've ever thought about selling outside of the United States, I have an expert here who's going to talk about how to enter the global marketplace. Now, if you're looking for ways to grow your sales, have you ever considered opening up another channel like Amazon? You know, marketplaces have lots of traffic. You got to know how to take advantage of it, though. So we're going to talk about that. And, we're also going to talk about the fact that there are over 4,000 franchise concepts in the United States. Could your business be the next one? One of my experts here is going to talk to you about what you need to know if you think you might want to franchise your business. And did you all know that 70% of the world's GDP is not in the United States? Yeah, that means there's people in other countries who are waiting to do business with you. And we're going to talk about what you need to know as you are going to pursue different business opportunities in different countries. So, here on the Small Biz Chat podcast, we talk about how to start and grow a successful small business. Our mission is to end small business failure. And all of my experts are going to give you their sage advice. This is advice you otherwise would have to pay for. We view the Small Biz Chat podcast as a peer-to-peer mentoring program, and we've got tons of invaluable advice to share. Now, listen, you are probably watching us on my Small Biz Lady YouTube channel, on my Small Biz Lady Facebook page. And what I want to invite you to first do is subscribe. But if you hear a comment that is like really awesome, please give us a shout out in the chat. And of course, we want you to share this stream because we want other people to know where they can get reliable, valuable small business advice. Now, it's time for me to introduce my guests for today, my 3 guests. The first guest, his name is Stephen Pope, and he is CEO of My Amazon Guy. So I guess you guys can figure out what he does. Then I have Alicia Miller. She is the author of the new book, Big Money in Franchising. And we're going to be talking to Thomas Young, the CEO of the World Trade Center Association, Greater Philadelphia. And I am excited to learn from all of them. Now it's time for me to introduce my guest, Stephen Pope. He is the founder of MyAmazonGuy.com, which is a marketing agency managing more than 300 active brands. He is a best-selling author of his book, Amazon Selling Tips, which, by the way, made the top list all over Amazon. He started his career as a TV news producer in Idaho and then was an e-commerce director for over 10 years for brands from gold and silver coins to women's plus-size clothing. He's created My Amazon Guy, and his agency has 300 plus employees, and they are all about growing traffic and sales on Amazon. He also owns My Refund Guy, My Warehouse Guy, and 4 other Amazon brands. His YouTube channel is what he is most known for, and he's had millions of views on his more than 1,500 videos he shares on all things Amazon. So I want to welcome you, Stephen, to the Small Biz Chat podcast.
Thanks for having me on.
Oh, gosh, I'm excited to talk to you because I'm like, dude, how did you become like the Amazon guy, right? Tell me about that.
Well, the wife and I were in the laundry room one day and I decided I was going to start a company. And she said, well, how do people normally introduce you? And I'm like, they don't really care who I am. They just say, go talk to my Amazon guy. And then she looked at me and I looked at her and I was like, okay, that's the name. But yeah, I've been selling on the Amazon platform for a decade and it's definitely not passive income. It's very difficult to sell on Amazon. What the buyer experiences is seamless, but what the seller goes through to make that happen is very complicated.
All right. So what factors should you consider when you're deciding even what products to sell on Amazon?
I personally think you should stick to what you know. A lot of people out there are data wizards and they can go in and look at hot trending subjects and other products like that. But I think it's better to stick to products you understand. So if you're a dentist and you sell some sort of bamboo dental floss, you're probably going to have an edge. If you're a chemist and you make the next supplement to increase testosterone, you're probably going to have a better chance of success versus the next guy who doesn't have that association or understanding. So when you stick to the products you understand, you're the customer avatar. You have an edge. You have an understanding of how to cope with all the ups and downs of entrepreneurship. As you all know, running a small business every single day is very difficult. So having an edge, a decade of experience using a product, selling a product prior to even trying to launch or source or manufacture it, it's going to be a long advantage when you're selling on Amazon.com.
I believe you. So let's talk about all of the stuff that Amazon will put you through to sell on their platform. So talk about like their seller policies and guidelines and fee structures and how does one learn to navigate all this stuff?
Trial and error, and you have to pay your tax, right? There's no 4-year college degree to go learn how to sell on Amazon. And even if you are the most educated PhD person, you study every help file Amazon has ever put out there, I pretty much guarantee you're going to make thousands of dollars in mistakes in your first year selling on Amazon. Obviously, as an agency, I'm biased, come hire me, whatever. But just navigating all of that information, this is what has been kind of a core to my business. I like to joke that I run an education company that happens to be an agency. And so the way that we've gone about doing this is just simply seeing what's happening on accounts in real time. We post videos about how it impacts people and what's going on with that. But there's a lot of places you can learn. You can learn directly from Amazon. You can learn from would-be Amazon gurus like me posting things on YouTube. But at the end of the day, no matter how much learning you do in advance before you launch your first product on Amazon, I just guarantee you're going to make thousands of dollars in mistakes. So you really need to embrace the fact that you're going to have to pad for mistakes. So if you think you're going to have a 30% net margin your first year, let me tell you, 20% of that is going to be eaten in mistakes. So be prepared to pay your tax when selling on Amazon.
I love it. I love it. I love straight talk small business advice. All right. So talk to me about what is your process to conduct your market research and competitive analysis on Amazon? Like how are you, because Amazon is famous for not giving up data. So tell me, how can you even do this effectively?
In 2024, surprisingly, we actually have pretty much all of the data available on Amazon. We know what product sells for how much, how often, how many units are churning. We know who the sellers are. We can trace where the source of that inventory is coming from. There's all kinds of data and tools out there. And so in reality, there's too much data. And so a lot of time data paralysis occurs when trying to figure that out. But if you're in your living room right now, you're doing the 9-to-5 job and you're thinking to yourself, how do I get out of this? How do I start my own business or my own company? The reason why Amazon is attractive is because it's the greatest transfer of wealth in my lifetime between somebody who has no millionaire background, no inheritance, whatever, and being able to create millionaires on the Amazon.com platform. So that's why people are doing it. And if you're trying to figure out like how to, just decipher between the data sets and what to trust, at the end of the day, I really think people have to get back to their roots and understanding what they know. So if you're trying to decide between whether I attach myself to that fidget spinner, which was hot 5-6 years ago, you're going to be caught off guard and you're going to end up selling the same exact product everybody else is if you just pay attention to trends and just look at the data. So stick to what you know when you're trying to go about that. Don't get stuck in data paralysis.
All right, so let's talk about sourcing products. Where I once had a expert tell me you make your money when you buy your products, not when you sell it. So what are some of your best resources for sourcing products for selling on Amazon?
First-time sellers, probably Alibaba. More advanced sellers are going to make a trip over to China, and they're going to go visit manufacturer facilities directly. I've been to Guangzhou and I've been to the big summit. The buildings there are gigantic. We're talking like 6 football fields in size of buildings all connected to each other, thousands of merchants hawking their goods. I've been to that. I don't think that's where I would go again. I would go directly to manufacturers. So establishing one-to-one peer direct relationships to the source of an item. And the reason for that is because if you don't do it that way, you might end up working with a broker who's going to take that extra 5 or 10% off the top. Just like you were mentioning, when you make your purchase is when you make your profit. And so if you can't get your cost of good down, your COGS down as much as possible, then it won't matter how much marketing dollars you spend or don't spend, the profits just won't be there. And in today's age, Chinese manufactured goods is still a best practice. Yeah, their costs are still the lowest. Their knowledge on how to make things is still the best. I hope one day that changes, and I hope we bring it back to the States, and I hope we, fix manufacturing. But I've made multi-million-dollar mistakes myself trying to manufacture goods in the United States. It's just really difficult. I started a holster brand called Holstit. We tried to manufacture holsters directly in the North Carolina area, and I got to tell you, it was a disaster. I couldn't compete with the Chinese-made products. Americans, even though they might have a little bit of patriotism, just simply did not care to buy an American-made product at a premium in this category. So at the end of the day, Alibaba, best place to start if you're a first-time seller.
Good advice. Good advice. All right. So let's talk about pricing strategy, right? Because if you're selling on Amazon, Amazon can get you 3 different ways to give them money on one sale, right? So can you talk to me about how can you build your pricing strategy so that you take into account your competition, but that you actually make a profit with every sale?
I like to ignore my competition as much as possible, which is not something you'll hear a lot of experts say. A lot of experts are like paying super close attention to them. But I find that if you just focus on your customer, ask your customer, what do you want? Give it to them. And then ask, did you get what you wanted? That's the best way to build any business ever. And if you try and follow the competitor on pricing, if you win on price today, you'll probably lose on price tomorrow, realistically. And you can't beat the Chinese on price. If you're an American-made business, American-owned business that uses Chinese manufacturing, you're going to be competing against other products that have a lower price. So your best option is to outmarket them and build a brand, just like GoPro did when they had all of their videos they put out about how you can go pro, right? And it's a very aspirational type brand with a lot of baggage that comes with the aspiration of getting outside. So when you go to build your brand, you can't just simply have a commodity item. You can't just simply sell a chef knife and expect it to work, because when it comes to commodities, you'll lose on price. So you got to build a brand.
Love it. I love that advice because that is advice that I give people. What you want to be is a brand in demand. So I love that advice. All right. So tell us about Amazon fulfillment services versus, putting the package in the what is it, the envelope yourself and shipping it. Talk about the pros and cons of that.
All right. So FBA, Fulfilled by Amazon, gets you that nice nifty Prime badge on Amazon, and it will triple your sales, which is really important when you're first starting out. So it's critical. A lot of items don't do very well at FBA, big items, bulky items, heavy items, stuff like that. And you might have to ship it out of a warehouse. But the nice thing about FBA is that Amazon has solved logistics. Amazon is a marketplace, but more so than that, they're a logistics company. They figured out how to get stuff from point A to point B as fast as possible. We all love our 2-day shipping Prime. Well, now it's 1-day Prime. Now it's same-day Prime. Oh, is that too slow for you? Okay, 2-hour delivery, no problem. That's what Amazon has pulled off as a logistics company. It's pretty amazing. One mistake that I made, though, was trusting FBA too much. This is a hot sauce bottle that I personally launched on the Amazon platform. It's a 5-pound glass bottle. I paid Amazon to do the prep work for this. That was my biggest mistake. They did the bubble wrap. Everything was going well so far. They threw on the sticker, and then they put it on the shelf. Well, then when they went to pull it to ship it to the consumer, they shipped it out in freaking padded envelopes. And padded envelopes with glass bottles, as you can imagine what happened next. There was shards everywhere, glass sauce, you name it, all over the mail, all over the envelopes. The consumers that bought my product were not happy campers. It was a big, big problem. So you have to ship your items pre-boxed, ready to go directly to the consumer before it gets to Amazon FBA. And that is the tax I had to pay to learn how to sell on Amazon.
I think that is a really good story. I'm glad you told it. And I could just smell the barbecue sauce in my mailbox screaming, right? You know, that sounds horrible. Right. So
you get the product right, and then it just goes to crap after that. You know, if the logistics doesn't work.
And then they kill you in the reviews on top of it. Speaking of reviews, right? So if Amazon is handling this shipment and Amazon, you're buying it through Amazon, how do you ethically solicit reviews? I've seen people try to bribe people for reviews, and I know that's against Amazon's policy, but tell me about how you get that review if Amazon is really the provider and not you, right? It's not like Amazon's giving you an email list of everybody they ship the product to for you. So how do you do it?
You don't. You get sales, and that's it. Amazon is a marketplace that doesn't give you any access to consumer data and no ability to market and talk to those consumers. So because of that, you can't generate reviews with any actions you take. There are people who have tried to use product inserts, unethically sending mailers, following the shipments, offering discounts if they post a picture. But all of those companies will not be in business for much longer. Amazon has cracked down on any review generation that offers incentives. They've made very clear strides about cracking down on this. Unfortunately, a lot of the Chinese-owned companies, they just open up a dozen accounts and they skirt it as much as possible and try and work around the system, and that happens. So a lot of times the white hat small business owner in the United States, it's a very difficult ride to try and go through that, especially when you're first launching that product and that first review comes in and it's 1 star and you're like, my entire livelihood is right here in these stars. But at the end of the day, 1 out of 100 customers will typically leave a review. And so with that in mind, if you want to get 10 reviews, you got to go generate 1,000 orders.
I love it. I love it. Listen, when we come right back on the SmallBizChat podcast, we're going to talk about how do you generate traffic and sales on Amazon. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Melinda Emerson, the Small Biz Lady, and I want to welcome you to SmallBizLadyAcademy.com, your go-to resource for women entrepreneurs. Whether you're just starting out or ready to grow, we've got everything you need to succeed. From expert interviews to live coaching sessions, our platform offers practical tools and strategies to help you build a profitable small business. Join our vibrant community of like-minded entrepreneurs today and take your business to new heights. Visit SmallBizLadyAcademy.com and start your journey.
Welcome back to the Small Biz Chat podcast. I'm Melinda Emerson, Small Biz Lady, your host, and I'm talking with Stephen Pope. We're talking about all things Amazon. All right, Stephen, tell me, how do you drive traffic and sales on Amazon? Like, I know it's like a Captain Obvious question, but I don't think it really is. Just because they got traffic doesn't mean their traffic's coming to you. So talk to us how we actually get customers on Amazon.
My favorite 2 ways to get traffic are SEO and PPC. So search engine optimization, this is where you're going to put copy into the listing. You're going to put it into the code of the listing in search terms or alt text of the photos, making sure there's crawlable text on the listing. The second is PPC or pay-per-click advertising. This is the pay to win sort of aspect to get to the top of the search results. And Amazon is making a killing on ads these days. They actually make more money from sellers on advertising than they do on AWS in 2024. So that gives you some perspective how popular driving traffic on Amazon is. SEO and PPC, though, are the ways to go.
That is extraordinary because AWS, they're minting money in the basement. So you're telling me that they are fleecing sellers because now you got to buy ads on Amazon? Great. All right.
And there's a lot of damn ads on Amazon.
I know, because I'm a heavy Amazon user. All right. Tell us, how do you really track and analyze your performance metrics on Amazon? What is the best way to do that?
There's a lot of metrics you could look at. Top line sales with the revenue. Everybody's pulling out their cell phone and showing their sales for the day. And a lot of people like to track and look at that. I'm going to pull mine up right now. And everybody's got their seller app where they're looking at what the sales have been for today. But the other ones that I look at, traffic, keyword rankings, conversion rates, and CTR. There's my little chart for the day today. And a lot of people are posting screenshots of that on social media, and you'll see the YouTube thumbnails with all the gurus showing that. So everybody's about top line. But in reality, profit is really where people should focus more time and attention, because you could be $1 million seller, but if you don't have a 15% profit, you might as well go take that 9-to-5 job back and work on corporate America.
Wow, I think you really said a whole lot right there. All right, last question, Stephen. What is the best business advice that you have ever been given?
You need to have thinking time. One of my favorite things I do is get away from the office, sit on a chair on the beach or walk on the beach, and just have time to think. Most of my mistakes generally come from large 1, 2, 3 big mistakes in my life, where I spent $2 million trying to build a software when I'm an agency, or other big events like that. And I've tried to go outside of my sector of intelligence. And so I got to stick to my zone of genius. So thinking time, just having time scheduled where you only think, is the best advice I've ever received.
I love it. I love it. Stephen, thank you so much for being here. My Amazon guy. I think you might just be becoming that guy for me. Anyway, all right. Stay with us. When we come back, we're going to be talking about franchising. Is it for you? We're going to hear next. Stay with us.
Hi, I'm Melinda Emerson, the Small Biz Lady, and I want to welcome you to SmallBizLadyAcademy.com, your go-to resource for women entrepreneurs. Whether you're just starting out or ready to grow, we've got everything you need to succeed. From expert interviews to live coaching sessions, our platform offers practical tools and strategies to help you build a profitable small business. Join our vibrant community of like-minded entrepreneurs today and take your business to new heights. Visit SmallBizLadyAcademy.com and start your journey.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Small Biz Chat podcast. I'm Melinda Emerson, Small Biz Lady, your host. And now it is time for us to check in with our online folks. Hopefully you are watching us on my Small Biz Lady YouTube channel or my Small Biz Lady Facebook page. And if you are, we want you to subscribe. We want you to share this feed. But also, if you hear something brilliant, please leave us a comment. Or if there's a topic you want us to tackle in the future, you can put that in the comments as well. We always appreciate you because we do this service for you. Now it's time for me to introduce my guest, Alicia Miller. And she is the author of this brand new book called Big Money in Franchising. And I can't wait to talk to her. She is the director of the the managing director of the Emergent Growth Advisor. She helps new franchise brands launch strong from the start. She also works with mid-stage brands seeking private capital so that they can accelerate their enterprise growth. And you have to check out her new book anywhere books are sold. Alicia, welcome to the Small Biz Chat podcast.
Thanks. Nice to be here.
All right, so let's jump in. Tell me, how in the world did you learn so much about franchising?
Well, I started as a multi-unit franchisee myself. I left corporate America and wanted to run my own business. And I think that's a lot of people come into franchising that way, as they start as a franchisee. When I grew that business and sold it and transitioned into more consulting work, and that's when I started work with founders who had started their brand and were looking to grow. And sometimes they were looking for capital partners as well.
All right. I actually know your story, so I'm going to back you up. I want you to tell us what you bought and what you did and what time frame under which you did it, because it really knocked my socks off when I first heard this story about you.
So I came into a tutoring franchise called Sylvan Learning, and this was a business that was in distress. These were 11 units that were owned by an owner that had overextended himself, basically. And I took those over and turned them around, worked with the team to build it back up. And then in about 5 years, sold it off. So I love the tutoring business. I love child services. I loved working with families, but I was in it to turn the business around. I saw that, it just needed some TLC and some extra capital to get it back on its feet. And that's what I did. It's a great brand. And that brand actually was just recently sold to a private equity backed platform. So it continues to grow and do well.
All right. So most people do not start out in franchising by buying 11 units. I'm thinking that's like rare for people.
That's true.
I want to give you your flowers in person. Okay. So I'm like, listen, you bought 11 franchises and then you grew them exponentially to the point where you were able to sell them in 5 years for a mega profit. Listen, You are the consultant that I want. That's all I'm saying. All right. So let's jump in here. What factors should entrepreneurs consider when they're trying to determine whether or not their business would be good as a franchise?
Sure. Well, one signal is, has anybody asked you, is this a franchise? If your own customers like what you're doing enough that they say they can see themselves actually running this business, that's a good signal to listen to. If nobody's ever asked you that, I would question whether or not you've really created something that's getting customers excited, right? You've got to have sustainable customer demand. It's got to be profitable at the unit level. You've got to be, growing, and it's got to be unique enough in the marketplace that you're building a brand for yourself. I mean, look, there's lots of burger concepts. There's lots of ice cream concepts and cookie concepts and so on. There's got to be something unique about your brand that keeps customers coming back to you. We talked about that earlier, the brand building piece. So that's where you've got to start. But then also things to think about, once you become a franchisor, you are now running a franchise business. You are now running your restaurant. You're not running your cleaning, business or whatever it is it was. You're now in the business of franchising, and your entire role has transitioned to supporting your franchisees. You've got to be sure you actually really want to do that, because that's a very different job than running a bunch of restaurants, for example. So think about that. And then make sure you've really proven that the model works in different locations and that you've got training and support documented so that you can teach other people, because that's really what you become, train the trainer, right? You've got to teach other people to run this thing. And if you're in the business every day and it's only succeeding because you're way down in the weeds in the business, then that's probably not going to be so easily teachable. So you got to start there.
So what are the typical, if I want to start going through this process, what is the initial feasibility study? How do I I want to do this. What do I do first?
Well, the first thing is you need to start working with advisors who do nothing but advise emerging brands on how to do this. You're winging it on your own is not going to be a good strategy. There are attorneys and consultants and salespeople who do nothing but work with emerging brands. So that's a good place to start. And there's lots of ways to find those people. We can talk about that a bit later. So after you think about, is your model something that can be franchised? The process is fairly straightforward. You need to document your training and support or get help to do that. You need to meet with a franchise-specific attorney. Don't just hire your uncle who does real estate. You need to find someone who does franchising as they're living to help you get it set up correctly. You need to put together your business plan of how you're going to grow this thing. Keep in mind, there's 4,000 active franchise brands. It's going to take you a while to grow to the point where you hit what's called royalty self-sufficiency. So that means the royalties you're collecting from franchisees cover your corporate expenses. Okay. So for most franchises, that's about 50 units. So you're going to be selling franchises for a while before you hit the point where you can pay that for all that corporate support. So you've got to be well capitalized. You're going to make sure that you've got enough money to keep this thing going while you're building the business. And then, once you have come up with your business plan, you've also got to come up with a sales and marketing plan. How are you going to reach prospective franchisees? What are you going to tell them about the business and why they could be successful in it? All of these things are are steps in the process you need to go through before you ever start selling a single franchise license.
All right. Well, let me ask you this. So where do I go find these consultants and lawyers that I need?
Sure. First place to start is you need to get involved with the International Franchise Association. So franchise.org is the trade association for franchising. It's based in Washington, D.C. There are lots and lots of resources there, including a supplier list. So you can search by consultants and attorneys. You should go to expos and IFA events to start learning from people who have been in the business for a while. Franchising is a really big community and family, and people are very good about sharing what's worked and what hasn't. So don't try to learn this on your own. Go learn from other people who've been through it and get that shortcut, avoid making mistakes. And then Franchise Times is sort of the big publication that covers franchising. Every April, they've got an issue called Legal Eagles that does nothing but talk about attorneys that understand franchising. And you can go online and you can see which attorneys work on the franchisor side, which work on the franchisee side, and you can see what their specialties are, such as working with emerging franchise brands. Those are good places to start.
All right. So I have to ask you this. How expensive is this whole process? Like I just heard you say, I got to sell 50 of these things before my resources will pay, before my profits will pay for all the back end support I'm going to have to support these new franchisees. But how much money do I need to have up front to invest in this concept just to even hire the initial consultants that you're talking about?
Sure. So it's probably going to cost you around $100,000 to $150,000 just to get the basic documentation in place. So that's the franchise disclosure document that your attorney will help you draft, and your basic operating manual and training manual. You're going to need to hire help to get those done, as well as potentially hiring some support. So you're not, of course, doing everything yourself. Now, so there's two things to consider. First is you've got to have enough capital also for yourself so you can pay your own rent and your mortgage and your car and whatever you're doing personally. You've got to have that money set aside. You can raise money from family and friends, for example, or go potentially get an SBA loan to get this thing launched. But you will be much better off if you make sure you've got at least a few corporate units running, right? So you've got this concept, let's say it's a restaurant or let's say it's a cleaning business. Don't rush to start selling franchises based on one unit. Okay, you'll be much better off and it'll be a much healthier start if you have a few corporate units, because you're going to need the cash flow. Plus, it helps validate the model to make sure, when new franchisees are coming into the system, they can look and say, okay, well, here's what the corporate units are doing. If you only got one unit, that's not as credible as if you had 5. So that's where I would recommend starting is before you launch your franchise business, add another corporate unit, maybe add 2 more corporate units. Then you'll have some cash flow. You buy yourself some time. You can afford more staff because you're already going to have bench strength built from the team that you've got helping you run the corporate units. So you can borrow from those resources to help you get the rest of the business launched.
All right. Last question before we go to break. What are some of the common challenges and pitfalls that people face when they're getting started as a franchise?
Sure. Usually they move too fast. They're undercapitalized and they pick the wrong franchisees to begin with. And that's if the model works. If the model doesn't work, then another common problem is they haven't really tweaked the model enough to make it a successful model itself that other people can then adopt and be successful. But those first 5 or 10 franchisees will make or break your franchise. If you just let anybody in who's willing to sign the franchise license, you don't really know what kind of operator they're going to be. You need to really think about who can be successful in this type of business. Are we looking for somebody who's a salesperson? Are they an operations person? Either way, they need to be wired to sort of follow your system. But, if being successful in that franchise requires you to be really great at sales and building a great sales team, customer-facing team, and you're an operations person that hates sales, okay, that's not the franchisee you want to recruit. So you've got to be really careful about who those first franchisees are, because their success is what builds the rest of the system.
I appreciate that advice more than you know. You're watching the Small Biz Chat podcast, and we will be with more right back.
Hi, I'm Melinda Emerson, the Small Biz Lady, and I want to welcome you to SmallBizLadyAcademy.com, your go-to resource for women entrepreneurs. Whether you're just starting out or ready to grow, we've got everything you need to succeed. From expert interviews to live coaching sessions, our platform offers practical tools and strategies to help you build a profitable small business. Join our vibrant community of like-minded entrepreneurs today and take your business to new heights. Visit SmallBizLadyAcademy.com and start your journey.
Welcome back to the Small Biz Chat podcast. We're talking franchising with Alicia Miller, the author of the new book, Big Money in Franchising. All right, Alicia, I got to ask you, how do you figure out what your initial franchise fee should be?
That's actually fairly straightforward. You can have access to all sorts of other franchise disclosure documents. The state of Wisconsin, go to their franchise website. It's easy to find on Google. You can download any FDD that's up there, and you can see what other people are charging for their fees. So pull, competitors in your space, see how they charge, how they structure their fees. But it's pretty straightforward. Most charge a 5 to 6% royalty. Some do a flat fee, but usually a percentage of revenue is what's charged. The average franchise fee up front is $30,000 to $60,000 for an average territory. And the average national marketing fee is about 1 to 3%. So you can start there as your baseline. But as you start to plan your business, you need to look at what your competitors are charging in that sector and how they arrange territories, right? What they charge, is it by population? Is it by something else? So that you can know kind of what prospective franchisees might be thinking about in other adjacent opportunities.
All right. And now once I get my community, let's say my first 5 to 10 franchisees, how do you foster a sense of community within your franchise network?
Yeah, it's really important. Those relationships, franchising is all about relationships. So this needs to be front and center for your management team all the time. It starts really at the top. Are you building a collaborative community? Do you have a management team that involves franchisees in big decisions? Do you factor them into your thought process at all? You're setting the stage for what the collaboration looks like. You can't ask them to be collaborative if you're not even collaborating with them. So start there. Recruiting right in the first place is really helpful, right? So you want to bring in franchisees who are collaborative by nature, who like being part of a team, want to be part of a family, who openly share best practices. And then give them the tools so they can share. Everyone's busy and working on their business. Give them online resources, give them, workspaces where they can go online, host, monthly or weekly deep dives in particular parts of the business, do marketing one week and operations next week. Put together a franchise advisory council so that you have a mechanism to get that franchisee feedback on a regular basis, and then get them together in person at least once a year. It helps if you do regional meetings or small meetings, as well as kind of a larger meeting. Those relationships that you develop at conference can bridge the gap and can really help people solve some of their own problems. They'll openly share solutions without always coming back to the franchisor for a solution. And as you know, in franchising, some of the best ideas come from the field. So having, your ear to the ground and always talking to your franchisees, you'll get some great information from them.
Well, I think it's true. You can always get good ideas from the front line if you take the time to ask them. So I agree with that advice wholeheartedly. Last question for you. What is the best business advice? What is the best business advice that you have ever been given?
That's easy. Just never stop learning. This whole book that I wrote on private equity, I didn't start off in franchising thinking I would be looking at private equity, for goodness sake. But private equity has taken over franchising, has affected competition, and has really accelerated a lot of even emerging brands. I didn't know anything about it, but I studied it deeply and, worked out what was going on in the market. But I did that through networking and really studying the market. It's never too late to learn a new thing. People come into franchise often mid-career, and they've invested themselves very deeply in a corporate sort of a role or a very different role. And coming into a new thing like franchising is intimidating. Don't be intimidated. There are tools to get yourself up to speed. There's an entire community of franchise people to help you learn what franchising is and what good franchising is. And then within the brand that you choose, you've got the community within that brand as well. So you will, if you invest in always learning, you'll get up to speed and you can take yourself in a whole new direction.
I love it. Thank you so much for being here. And when we come back, we're going to talk about how to take your small business to the global marketplace. You're watching the Small Biz Chat podcast, and we will be right back.
Hi, I'm Melinda Emerson, the Small Biz Lady, and I want to welcome you to SmallBizLadyAcademy.com, your go-to resource for women entrepreneurs. Whether you're just starting out or ready to grow, we've got everything you need to succeed. From expert interviews to live coaching sessions, our platform offers practical tools and strategies to help you build a profitable small business. Join our vibrant community of like-minded entrepreneurs today and take your business to new heights. Visit SmallBizLadyAcademy.com and start your journey.
Hi there. Welcome to the Small Biz Chat podcast. I'm Melinda Emerson, the Small Biz Lady, and I'm your host. And I am so excited to be interviewing Mr. Thomas Young. Thomas is the president of the World Trade Center, Greater Philadelphia. He gained more than a decade of comprehensive experience in legislative affairs, policy advising, and public engagement during his tenure at Bellevue Strategies. Thomas's background encompasses significant and diverse political campaigns, notably Ken Lawrence, who ran for Montgomery County Commissioner, Donna Bullock for State Representative, and Lynne Abraham for Mayor. His passion these days is helping Philadelphia area businesses export outside of the United States. Thomas, welcome to the Small Biz Chat podcast.
Thank you for having me today, Melinda.
All right. So first of all, what is the World Trade Center Association? I thought the World Trade Center was a building. I had no idea that it was actually an organization. Can you tell me about its origins?
Sure, absolutely. So the World Trade Center Greater Philadelphia is a 501c3 member-based nonprofit. Our purpose is really to foster business growth and prosperity through global trade. We support local companies across various industries and various sizes through a variety of international trade programs and partnerships. So we really help our local regional economy and our small businesses.
Now, the World Trade Center Association, it's not just in Philadelphia, right?
Right. Yeah. We are one of over 320 plus World Trade Centers in over 90 countries. So we really have an extensive network and a lot of opportunity for small and medium-sized businesses.
Now, what specific services do you all offer to small business members and even some of your corporate members?
Yeah, so we offer a variety of programs and educational pieces. So we do international trade financing programs. We do educational workshops and seminars. We do business networking events where we can connect businesses to other businesses in terms of mentor and mentee type of programs. We do international market intelligence and other things as an import-export compliance assistance as well.
So talk to me about, I know that the federal government issues STEP grants every year to help people market their businesses outside the United States. Can you explain to me what STEP grants are and how you can access them like in different states across the country?
Sure. So STEP grants is on a state-by-state base where these grants help with travel expenses, travel experiences when you're looking for trade shows and missions to go abroad, when you're looking to scout out different opportunities that's on a global network.
Right. So in the state of Pennsylvania, you guys actually administer the STEP grants for the southeastern Pennsylvania, right? In the Philadelphia market?
Yeah, so we don't administer the STEP grant. We help facilitate and manage our companies when it comes to the STEP grant. We work hand in hand with the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. It's something called the Regional Export Network, that we're contracted with the state of Pennsylvania to do in Southeast Pennsylvania. So when it's time to go on trade missions, when it's time to go to trade shows, we talk to our companies and we help them go through the process when it comes to the STEP grant.
Okay. So now, can you talk about the differences? Like, I know that the World Trade Center Association is sort of like the state of Pennsylvania's international export arm, but can you talk a little bit about what you guys do in comparison to like the U.S. Commercial Service or the U.S. Commerce Department? Because don't you guys have similar services that you provide?
Yeah, absolutely. And we work together on a lot of things. Our commercial service office here in Philadelphia, we work hand in hand with them, with our membership, with our member companies to make sure they're getting the full deck when it comes to the global experience, when it comes to tapping in to marketplaces, when it comes to that conversation with some of the international scene, we help facilitate that, and so do the commercial services. I would say one of the biggest difference between the commercial services and us would probably be our network. They have a network of about 100 offices in about 70 countries, where we have, again, over 320 plus World Trade Centers in 92 countries. But also, we deal more than just import, export, and trade. For the World Trade Center, we have really three arms of what we do. We deal in, obviously, import, export, trade. We deal in local and regional economic development, and we also deal in real estate. So Philadelphia's World Trade Center, we don't necessarily deal in the real estate part yet, but there are other World Trade Centers around the world where they deal in the real estate. For instance, the World Trade Center of Bengaluru, which I visited back in early March, they have an 85 million square foot campus that includes the World Trade Center office building, a hotel, a hospital, a mall, and it includes living quarters for the people the people that's working inside of the World Trade Center building, if they so choose to stay on that campus.
Wow, that is a lot. So that there's lots of different things you can access. Now, let's talk about actually exporting itself. What are some of the common challenges that small business owners encounter as and when they get started with exporting?
Yeah, I would say some of the challenges that we've heard recently is heavily regulated markets, trying to figure out which markets to tap into, understanding the different markets and a different government and the different regulations depending on which country and which region you tend to want to participate in. So it's really looking at and understanding where you want to go, why you want to go there, and is that the most beneficial place to be?
Mm-hmm. So can you give us an example of sort of like some of the types of services that you've helped people, that your organization has helped people with related to that? Like, I'm imagining you guys help people with their go-to-market strategy, right? In different
Absolutely.
markets.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's one that we're very proud of. It's called Bassett Ice Cream. It's the oldest ice cream company in the U.S. It's based here in Philadelphia. They were looking to tap into different markets, and through some of the conversations that we've had and the connectivity that we've given them, they were able to tap into the China market as of recent, and even started with a flavored ice cream called green tea. Now, understanding with that flavored ice cream green tea, it was so popular in China that they decided to try it here in Philadelphia, and now it's becoming popular here in Philadelphia as well. So understanding that you can tap into a market, be there, and really ingratiate yourself in their culture, and sometimes it will come back to your own region.
Right. I know one of the things that I've had people talk about is just financing deals in foreign countries. It's like, I know that the federal government will loan people in foreign governments money to do business with American companies. Now, how do you guys get involved with some of that?
Right. So one of our workshops that we do, we bring in the Exim Bank to have some workshops to talk about what they do. But we also have partners with some of our local banks where they'll come in, or we'll help them develop specialized financial solutions for their business, especially if they're looking to expand into the international market. So when we say that, the things that include is like trade finance, export loans, and like letters of credit. So and that's the one thing that we really talk about Philadelphia and sell about Philadelphia's region is that when you think about the global network, we have everything from international financial services to multinational banks and multinational corporations that understand the different markets and understand the different foreign exchanges and understand the finances needed at any particular given time in any particular given area.
I love it. I love it. And lastly, what is the best business advice that you've ever been given?
The best business advice that I was given, I would say, is to be like water. It's to always learn. It's to always be flexible and always understand that, you may want something one way or you may vision something going one way, but understand that there's 20 ways to skin a cat. I mean, that's what we tell our businesses as well, is to understand that, just because you want to tap into a particular market or just because you think that a market is particularly hot right now, that doesn't mean that that's the long-term goal. We always want to make sure that we're giving the best advice that we can give, but also understanding that it's more than just increasing the capacity of these small and medium-sized businesses that we have members that are our members. It's also about talking to the CEOs, visiting their facilities, understanding what they're doing so that we can tap into it. So be like water, always be flexible, and always be willing to change.
I love it. I love it. Thank you so much, Thomas, for being here with me. I really enjoyed learning so much about your organization. And I'm really excited. I'm a new member of your organization. So I'm actually trying to take advantage of all of the good resources that you all have as well, because exporting is definitely part of my plan for my company as well. So at this time, what I would like to do is invite all of our guests back. So we're going to invite Stephen Pope. We're going to invite Alicia Miller back and you, Thomas. And we're going to do a really quick panel that we love to call Hit It and Quit It. Okay, so the whole point of this, you guys, is to be brief. So I'm going to ask each of you the same question. And there's a couple of things. A, you have to answer in 30 seconds or less. B, you cannot repeat someone else's answer. And if you do, you're going to get the cowbell. I don't want to give you all that. So I want you guys to quickly answer these questions. And none of them are hard, right? There's no gotcha questions here. And you guys, we're going to have a good time together. So Stephen, since you have been quietest the longest, we are going to come to you first, then you, Alicia, then you, Thomas. So our very first question is, what is your favorite podcast?
Well, I really like to watch all the podcasts in the Amazon sector. So there's a journey from Scott Needham, and he does a journey of like every Amazon seller every week. And he's had over 1,000 guests come on. So that one's my favorite.
Love it. Love it. All right, Alicia, what is your favorite podcast?
I like Franchise Masters. I listen to all the franchise podcasts. You can get a lot of information, but Franchise Masters. I also listen to Dry Powder, which is run by the head of the PE group at Bain, which is another great podcast.
All right. Love it. Thomas, what's your favorite podcast?
Mine is a little bit off the beaten path. My favorite podcast is called Mind the Game. It's a sports podcast that deals with LeBron James and JJ Redick, where they talk about the specifics of the NBA game and the NBA sport as a whole.
Oh, I forgot. You're a former college hoop star. That's why you listen to that. I'm on to you.
I played professionally as well once upon a time. So that's my passion before the passion that I have now.
I got it. All right. Next question. Alicia, I'm coming to you first this time. Thomas, you second, and Stephen, you third. What is your favorite business app? Favorite business app?
My favorite business app is probably LinkedIn. I think I get more news from LinkedIn than I get from the news apps that I look at, because people, my large network is always pulling things of interest to them and they put it on their feed. And I sometimes see it before I might see it on CNN or something else. My favorite personal app, though, is Duolingo. I love Duolingo.
I love Duolingo, too. Hola, chica. Anyway, all right. Thomas, what is your favorite business app?
My favorite business app is sort of similar. My favorite business app would probably be Babbel. just because I'm talking to so many different people from so many different regions that I tend to go on babble a lot just to brush up on things before I have the conversation.
I love it. I love it. Everybody's learning a new language. All right, Stephen, what is your favorite business app?
YouTube, without a doubt. You can see the video tutorials, every single type of business, how to get started. It's visual, it's actionable insights, and you can even get shorts on YouTube now. They've made it TikToked.
Right. YouTube University. Okay, let's go. All right. Third question. This time I'm coming to you first, Thomas, then you, Stephen, then you, Alicia. What is your favorite old school marketing tip? Favorite old school marketing tip?
I would say sort of what I said about doing business. It was be like water. Understand that the business marketplace is very flexible, so you should be the same. Anyone that's standing straight up or standing too stiff tends to fall over or break in half. So always remain flexible in the business world.
Love it. All right. Stephen, what you got?
Just get started. But if we're going to go super old school, as a marketer, I like to send out postcards to prospects to try and get them to buy from me online. And that's the merger between digital and online, and offline worlds. If you can drive one to the other, your conversion rate may not be as good, but your cost per acquisition, generally speaking, it's lower.
I completely agree with you. People forget about snail mail. So everybody send an email. So actually, direct mail actually stands out. All right, Alicia, what's your favorite old school marketing tip?
I give a lot of content away for free. I give a lot of help away for free. So, for example, on my website, if you go to bigmoneyandfranchising.com, there's a tab there that helps prospective franchisees ask good questions when they're interviewing current franchisees. So just give it away. There's no reason you need to charge for every little thing. And, eventually people will come to you with more complicated questions. And for me as a consultant, that's what I'm selling is advice and my time and my expertise. So, but in order to get there, you've got to sometimes give a lot of information away.
I couldn't agree with you more. All right. Last question, guys. What is the best business book you have ever read? Best business book you've ever read. All right, Stephen, I'm going to start with you. Then I'm going to go to you, Alicia, and then you, Thomas.
The Road Less Stupid, without a doubt, because it does a really good job of going high level. You get your bumper sticker sort of comment, and then he goes deep down in the weeds and explains the tactical as well. So it's really nice to be able to have it. I personally like it on Audible. I think he did a really good job voicing his own book.
Love it. Love it. Okay. Alicia, what do you got?
Well, I need to do a shout out for your book, Become Your Own Boss in 12 Months. It's a genius book. It really is. I mean, it's a brilliant book to get anybody started who's thinking about starting a business. My other favorite business book, honestly, is one I have reread this book probably 4 or 5 times. It's called Career Warfare. And it's not for small business owners per se, but it talks a lot about how you are perceived by the people around you and how sometimes what you're communicating in your manners and how you speak to people is not getting you the results you're looking for, how to know when it's the right time to, cut bait and get out of a corporate job and get out on your own when you're not moving up the ladder and when you're getting frustrated. It's a great book. It's very entertaining. It's written by a guy who's was a marketing guy. So it's a funny book and it's full of really great anecdotes.
I'm going to get that one. That sounds kind of interesting to me. Hey, Thomas, what's your best business book you've ever read?
The best business book I ever read is Outlier by Malcolm Gladwell. The book really talks about a plethora of things, but it really talks about putting in the time and putting in the effort when you want to master something, but also understanding that timing and circumstance has a lot to do with success. So understanding time, understand circumstance, and making it work to your will so that you can be successful.
I love it. I love it. That was a great book. I really appreciated that one. And his other one, The Tipping Point, I like that one really a lot as well. All right, you guys, my favorite book, 10X is Easier Than 2X by Dan Sullivan. This is the man. This is the book. I've read this book. I've listened to this book. I bought this book and given people this book. This is a great book. What I love about this book is he says, in order to transform your business, you must transform yourself. And so I love it. It's a great book. Listen, thank you guys so much for being here on the Small Biz Chat podcast. You guys are tremendous guests. Thank you so much to Stephen Pope, myfranchiseguide.com. Thank you to Alicia Miller, author of the brand new book, Big Money in Franchising. And thank you so much, Thomas Young, who is the CEO of the World Trade Center, Greater Philadelphia. And that's WTCPhila.org. So check him out if you guys are in the Philadelphia area, or if you need to find the World Trade Center in your town, look it up because they've got great resources for you if you want to export outside of the United States. Now, thank you so much for joining us for this episode of the Small Biz Chat podcast. Today's podcast is brought to you by Small Biz Lady Academy. This is our new monthly membership site for women entrepreneurs looking to start and grow. You'll have the opportunity to be coached by me live every month. You'll have access to our member roundtables, and our exclusive content and coaching will be available in English and Spanish. So if you are looking to you want to work for yourself, but not be by yourself, you need to be a member of Small Biz Lady Academy. And right now, our founding member price is out here, and you will get it for a lifetime as long as you're a member. So head over to smallbizladyacademy.com and check us out. I tell you, we're the sauce. You got to check it out. All right. Now, I want to leave you with this. The mission of the Small Biz Chat podcast is to end small business failure. But my mission is to let you know that you never lose in business. You either win or you learn. God bless everybody. Take care.